This is the weekend edition of Fear and Greed Business News, Australia's best business podcast. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Adam Lang.
Good morning, Michael.
Now, Adam, Sean is away today, obviously, and our weekend show, I mean, it's never quite the same without him here because he's quite a
firebrand.
Yes, a firebrand. That's a good way of putting it. I was going to say a ferocious competitor. I was going to say that he plays a bit dirty. He does do that at times.
No.
What I'm hoping for...
Certainly embraces the animal spirit.
Yeah, what I'm hoping for today is a good, clean fight. That it's because we've got honourable people involved. We've got you, obviously.
Oh, Michael,
Adam.
the irony.
Are you suggesting that it's me that causes the...
I'll let the audience decide. Well, actually, we'll let Jen decide.
Yes, we will. Because, of course, our weekend show is different to the weekday show. It's a competition to find the biggest story of the week and the most remarkable story and the sleeper story, which is a story that's not getting the attention that we think it deserves. So it's very subjective, that one. And then the final category is our favourite story, which is, again, also very subjective. And as I mentioned, we need an adjudicator and we choose a very honourable, decent, upstanding citizen to help us choose a winner and to decide between us. And this week, that is Jennifer Duke, economics correspondent at Capital Brief. Jen, good morning.
Good morning. I'm glad I'm being called honourable this early on. See if
That's
I can live up to that.
Well, I'm trying to butter you up, you know. I mean, you and I have done this show enough times to know that it's whoever can butter up the judge the best.
That is true.
We'll typically have a bit of an advantage going into it. Adam,
yeah.
Do you mind if I go first for the biggest story of the week?
Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. I was expecting a little bit more pushback there, considering the person who goes first typically wins. But anyway, I'm going to roll with it while I've got the opportunity. Biggest story of the week. There was a lot to choose from, actually. There was a lot happening this week. But for the biggest story, which means that it is bigger than all the other stories, there was a major, major milestone passed this week. Australian house prices have fully recovered from their tumble post-COVID. And what's more, they are now back at record levels. They are moving past the point that they were at before and are now heading back into record territory. Isn't that just extraordinary? The strength of the housing market in Australia. Now, keep in mind that some economists were tipping a massive fall, up to 20%. Instead, according to CoreLogic's home value index, prices fell just 7% and bottomed in late January this year. Since then, they've mounted a spectacular recovery. That same home value index that fell 7.5% has now risen 8.1%. As I mentioned, taking us back into record territory. Just think about the speed of that for a second. It took 9 months to go from record highs to the bottom of the trough, then 10 months to recover entirely, even as interest rates were rising. You've got Perth, Adelaide and Brisbane leading the way. Sydney and Melbourne have a bit to go still, though supply remains low and demand is consistent. But this week, we then heard conflicting predictions of what's going to happen next. Now, I know that's probably going to surprise you both, the fact that people could have differing opinions on the housing market. CoreLogic says the pace of growth is easing, but SQM research goes even further than that and says prices are actually going to fall again next year. They're going to go backwards. The worst will be in Sydney at 4% and a 1% drop across the country. Why? Because of high interest rates, a peak in migration, unemployment rate that's tipped to rise towards 5% next year. So there you go. The biggest story of the week. The extraordinary strength and resilience of the housing market returning this week to record levels, unbeatable, which makes it feel kind of almost a little bit unfair then now passing over to Adam for a silver medal performance, please. Adam, go.
All right. My nomination for biggest story of the week is cybercrime and the new legislation to fight the good fight. Last week, we interviewed Darren Hopkins and Blair Sutton. They are cyber partners at McGrath-Nicol Advisory, and we learned of the incredible, scary and big data behind the current Australian cybersecurity and ransomware story. McGrath-Nicol and YouGov recently revealed that 56% of major Australian companies, that's over half, have been hit with a ransomware attack in the past 5 years. 73% of them paid a ransom, and of them, 75% paid within 48 hours, and the average payment is around $1 million. Big companies in Australia are being hit hard. Among small to medium businesses, The Australian Signals Directorate receives a cybercrime report every 6 minutes, and the average cost is around $75,000. So we've got big business, small and medium businesses being hit too. Those are scarily big numbers, and you can imagine the additional stress upon those individuals, the work they need to do to pay the ransom, recover the loss of income, and try to minimise the risk of it actually happening again. This week, we reported that Home Affairs Minister Claire O'Neill announced a new cybersecurity strategy, including support for small and medium-sized businesses, building public awareness, fighting cybercrime, breaking the ransomware business model, and strengthening identity security. So we know everyone is susceptible to cybercrime. The scope is international, the damage is huge and pervasive. And this week, the federal government began to unite us all in Australia's cyber fight back. Big story, big cyber fight, and Australia's Federation of States is uniting in the fight against the cyber criminals. There you go, Jen, my nomination for biggest story of the week.
Jen.
You're already leaping in to defend him, Michael.
No, I don't want to be a pedant, right?
But
there was a lot in that story that was from the previous week, and I just feel that if we're going to be,
and the new legislation, Michael.
Oh no! I'm saying just judge it based on what's happened this week, and just treat the rest of it as context.
Oh, but the context, Michael, the why is important.
Oh, fine, go for it, Jen.
Well, look, I think the cybercrime stuff is really important, but I think that the key word in what you were saying, Adam, is that it's just beginning. And yes, it's a strategy, but my gosh, I don't know that it actually gave us a lot of clarity on how we're going to win the cybercrime war at the moment. And of course, housing is just so close to my heart and a topic that I am obsessed with. So for purely subjective reasons, I'm going to give this one to Michael.
Do you know the thing that I find most... Oh, thank you very much, Jen. I appreciate that. But on the cyber story, don't you think it's interesting that one of the parts of this new policy is to ban businesses from paying ransoms to hackers? I don't understand how this is going to actually work. I think that this is such an enormous job for the government. The thing that I love most about the whole policy is this idea of small businesses being able to get one-on-one support and assistance for whenever they get hit by a cybercrime, because that would be the hardest thing. If you're a sole trader or just a small business, you're running a small shop or something, and your systems all get locked down because someone has clicked on the wrong email or you're the subject of a ransomware attack, you wouldn't know where to turn. You wouldn't know what to do. You wouldn't know where to go. You'd be stuck just trying to Google going, what do I do if I've been hit by a cyber attack? And the fact that part of this that the government has announced is actually being able to get kind of one-on-one assistance for small businesses when you are in this situation, I actually think that is really good policy.
Oh, it's definitely a good, and I'd say one of the kind of fascinating parts of this is that businesses are so scared to tell anyone when it's happened to them because they're worried about the big media backlash. And so at least if they can have somewhere where they can go and talk about it openly and get support and not have to, put it out there just in the public domain to get slammed. I mean, that's actually a really useful thing because we actually need more small businesses breaking the chain of cybercrime. And we don't have that much visibility at the moment of how many are getting attacked. Like we got those great figures that Adam mentioned, but it's hardly like everyone's reporting
it.
Yeah,
the figures from the previous week, yeah.
But it's hardly like everyone's out there kind of willingly telling you if they've been subject to a cyber attack.
No, there is an element of shame, and there is an idea as well that your customers will respond poorly against it because nobody wants to know that their data... I hate to think how much of my own personal data is out there online because I know that it will be from multiple kind of things. And I'd rather just not know. I'd rather just stay in the dark about that kind of thing. Anyway, look, 1-0 on the scores. Not that it's about the scores today. Really, it's just...
Not today. It is every other day.
Of course it's about the scores. Adam, most remarkable story. Would you like to go first on this one?
Sure. And for this one, Jen, I've got Optus outage ousts a CEO. And we know that happened this week following the massive Optus telecommunications outage on Wednesday, the 8th of November. CEO Kelly Bayer Rosmarin fronted a grueling Senate inquiry on Friday, 17 November. And last Monday, parent company Singtel announced her resignation. It has been an excruciating 2 weeks for Optus, and criticism seemed to compound this outage with the fallout from the customer data cybersecurity leak just over 1 year ago. And the way Optus handled communications to both those instances has been heavily criticised. Following Kelly Bayer Rosmarin's resignation on Monday, Chief Financial Officer Michael Ventnor will become interim CEO. Peter Kaliaropoulos has been appointed Chief Operations Officer, and alongside former New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian, all three could be contenders for the global search for the top job. On Thursday, long-standing Optus Chairman Paul O'Sullivan issued his first personal apology for the outage, saying, "We're sorry, we let you down, but we understand the important role we fulfill, and we hope by the way we recover that we can rebuild your confidence in us." End of quote. There are two remarkable components to this story. The first is that it took two crises for Optus to understand the requirements of accountability and communication with customers. The second is that the parent company Singtel and the Optus board had to accept the resignation of the CEO as a consequence. We all know this. Crises happen. Risks are foreseeable. And Singtel and Optus, not just the CEO, should have done better. It's really unfortunate and remarkable. Michael.
It is a remarkable story. Can I just check the criteria for what we are doing here? I'm assuming, Jen, you're applying roughly the same criteria as Adam normally does in terms of economic impact, timeliness, subjective bias.
Yes, that is
Economic impact, Michael, and we know melodrama.
Melodrama is a big category.
I was just checking to see whether melodrama was part of this, just to make sure that it was. Because
Absolutely. The best part.
Because my most remarkable story also involves the exit of a CEO. But this isn't just about a telco. No. This is about a company that holds the very future of humanity in its hands. And I'm not even being dramatic about this. OpenAI, which is the company behind the artificial intelligence platform ChatGPT, booted out its CEO, Sam Altman. The board made the decision, but Microsoft, which has invented something like $13 or $14 billion in OpenAI, think that it's entitled to a little bit of a say in kind of what goes on, didn't know that this was all happening. They weren't happy, and it kicked off an epic saga. There was plenty of talk of Sam Altman going to Microsoft, joining Microsoft along with OpenAI President Greg Brockman to run a new artificial intelligence unit at the company. It looked like that was the way it was going to play out. OpenAI even went and appointed a new CEO. Very much an interim CEO, because after nearly all of OpenAI's 750 staff threatened to quit if Sam Altman wasn't reappointed, he was reappointed. So he's back. There's been a few changes at the board level too, as you can imagine, after a decision like all of that. Now, that amount of change at a company like OpenAI is pretty remarkable. But what's even more fascinating, what makes this story truly remarkable and really kind of compounds the effect and the impact that this has, because when I was talking about the company holding the future of humanity in its hand, I really wasn't being melodramatic, because we don't know why Sam Altman was punted in the first place. There are all kinds of reports, and this one in particular is pretty alarming. Apparently, staff had raised concerns with the board about new technology called Q-Star that had been developed, a big major breakthrough apparently. Reuters reports that some internally at the company thought that Q-Star was a breakthrough in the search for what is called superintelligence. It's AI systems that are actually smarter than humans. It's also known as artificial general intelligence, and that is the kind of artificial intelligence that experts are really, really worried about, because it's at the point where they are smarter than people and actually are essentially able to evade human control. So when I said that this company really is significant for the future of humankind, I wasn't being melodramatic. You can laugh all you want.
Definitely melodrama.
It's not. It's just pointing out the facts. And if those facts happen to be quite melodramatic, that's not me being melodramatic. That is just the story. And it is truly the most remarkable story potentially of the decade. Okay, that was actually a bit of an overreach.
That's definitely melodrama.
Look, I think we can all agree it's the most remarkable of the week, though.
Ooh, this is really, really tough, because when Adam did his most remarkable, I was almost convinced that was going to win it for me, because that was a story that I found just truly remarkable. I don't know any other way to put it through the week, particularly after Kelly, I think, said within 48 hours or 24 hours before that it wasn't about her. And that's why sort of she wasn't entertaining those those discussions. But the OpenAI story has kind of captivated international attention. Oh, I think I'm going to give you guys a draw on this one. I don't think I can actually even separate it on points. It's too close. So yeah, 1-1 for that one.
Okay.
I'm pleasantly surprised.
You say you're pleasantly surprised. Were you expecting to not win that one?
Well, I know it's overseas and it's almost like vaudeville, this whole Sam Altman thing, but it is spectacular.
Yes.
So, and definitely remarkable.
But I'm a former telco reporter and subjective bias is still a category. So.
Absolutely. And it's also here. Like, we've watched this on our doorstep for the last 2 weeks. I think just there's so many lessons that we can learn to do better.
That's true. And also, I mean, how upset do people get about several hours of having I woke up that day without any of my devices working and I had a migraine and I was like, maybe the world's ended. And that was like the first thing that kind of came into my mind.
Wow.
Which tells you how obsessed we are with our mobile connectivity.
But it's stressful. We're used to that connectivity, aren't we?
That's right. So when something goes wrong with these fundamental, essential infrastructure,
we're exposed.
Heads end up rolling. Yeah.
Just to be clear, though, you have locked in the result. You can't change it now for Adam to win. It feels like you're almost talking yourself into Adam winning this category. The score is 1.5 to half. So, Adam, you're well within range.
Striking distance.
This is still anyone's. We will take a very quick break and we'll come back and look for a sleeper story of the week. All right, Adam, we are looking for the sleeper story, which is a story that's not getting the attention that we feel it deserves, or more likely that we feel is going to become a bigger story further down the track, but we've just cunningly identified it early on. Shall I go first on this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Look, I'm going to call it now, right now, here, today. The work from home dream is officially over. It's been happening by stealth, 1,000 small cuts. We all thought work from home was here to stay, at least in a substantial hybrid sense. But this week, there were just a few more nails in the coffin of those who like to work on their own with their cat on their lap and not have to make small talk in the office kitchen.
I feel very seen.
Yeah. So Jen, you and I are united on this one here. I'm not targeting your subjective bias, but if you want to use that to swing a few points my way, I'll be happy to take them. ANZ staff are told that their annual bonuses may be cut if they fail to spend at least 50% of their scheduled working hours in the office. And Suncorp and Origin Energy, I think, have both done similar things, tying office attendance to performance ratings and remuneration, that kind of thing. It is hard for an employee to argue with that all of a sudden when the money that you're taking home could actually be affected by the number of hours that you're spending in the office. And it gives a very clear indication of what the boss's preference actually is if they're putting those restrictions in place. And on top of that, you had the Fair Work Commission recognising the productivity costs of working from home and supporting bosses' rights to get workers back to the office post-pandemic under Labor's newly expanded flexible work laws. That was actually kind of last week, but it's a little bit of context, as we say, and context is important. So the case clearly against working from home is growing. Another one this week with a Ticketek manager who'd planned to work remotely from a South Korean hotel while on a trip. He normally did 4 days at home, 1 in the office, but he didn't tell his boss until very late that he was going to do those home days from a hotel while overseas. And he was told, nope, that's annual leave. So he took it to the Fair Work Commission, who agreed with the workplace. It was annual leave. Piece by piece, the work from home thing is falling over, despite all this recent research that shows companies that allow a more hybrid model having better performance overall. But this is a sleeper because you get the impression that it's really just getting started, that I referred to it earlier with a million different cliches, 1,000 kind of small cuts happening by stealth, nails in the coffin of people who like to work from home. But bosses have clearly had enough. ANZ bonuses, Ticketek workers wanting to work from overseas while on a trip is just the start. I'm going to call it this week. Today is a turning point. Watch this space. How many cliches did I put into one story just then?
Well, it's like a good sporting interview.
Oh, it's quite extraordinary. I gave 110%. Adam, what have you got for us?
I'll take each week as it comes too, Michael. So this week, my sleeper story is population growth prompts a reform crisis. So according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics data released this week, our population could rise to between 34 and 46 million by 2071. Now, these numbers are projections based on the expected migration intake, government policy, births and deaths, so they could vary greatly over the coming 48 years. Amongst this, and without immigration, Australia's population would actually start to decline over time on these figures due to deaths outpacing births. Now, even with immigration, our nation is rapidly ageing. The proportion of those over 65 years of age is rising from 17% now to be projected to be 25% over this period. So from 17 to 25% of our population will be over 65. But, or as Michael likes to say, but there are two massive sleeping components to this important story. We don't have the infrastructure and we can't afford it. So let me explain. Last week, Michael described the infrastructure crisis we already face. We do not have enough properties, infrastructure, or institutions to house, power, transport, feed, educate, hospitalise, or care for the current population of our country. This week, I will add a further sleeper element to the mix. We do not have the tax base to pay for all of those things. And with an ageing population, this sleeper story could slowly turn to Australia's nightmare of fiscal inequity. Probably not for me or you, Michael, or for you, Jen, but for our children and our nation's children, it will be. Our children, Michael and Jen, need us to seize the day and put our mouth where our money needs to be. Speak up. Write a song, stick on a musical, rally your suburbs, write a compassionate yet urgent letter to your local politicians. Australia, do whatever you can to add your voice to this. Don't let our children suffer from this lack of infrastructure and tax reform nightmare.
Oh, I have never heard you so fired up, and it's
glorious.
It was tax reform that did it. Who would have thought Australia's nightmare of fiscal inequity? Oh, goodness
Population
me.
apocalypse. Is that?
Oh, yeah, somehow I found the feeling for this one.
Oh, you're getting us all a bit riled up here, Adam. This is some powerful stuff. Jen.
Ooh. So first of all, I am hoping to be around by 2070. So just throwing that out there. I will probably still be alive to see this.
I would like to think I will be as well. Yeah.
Well, I hope we are too.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I don't feel like I'm going to be completely tapped out of civilization by then.
Oh, how about Adam just writing us both off in that story?
No. I don't mean we'll be dead. I mean, the problem won't be ours to own.
We'll be the problem.
Exactly. We'll be the weight around our nation's fiscal neck.
That's right. We'll be the ones pointing and being like, pedal faster, taxpayers.
Yeah. Children, pay more taxes so we can live.
So I think the work from home story is massive, but I would say that this has been an ongoing sleeper for quite a few weeks. And I'm a bit more optimistic than you, Michael, in thinking that actually the work from home dream isn't over and maybe you calling it doesn't make it so. So I'm going to give this one to Adam because I think that population growth is the biggest sleeper and it's going to be a story for decades. So even with all of that melodrama, which you get full points for on both sides, I think it's actually pretty warranted for population growth.
I do too. This is really good, Michael. 1.5 points each.
Are you saying that my melodrama is unwarranted most of the time?
Most might be a push. Some of the time, I think is fair. But I do love the use of the, Adam, it's called the double butt, as Michael told me when I told him about his verbal tick of the butt. The double butt.
It's for effect.
It's great. It's my favourite vocal effect.
Yeah, indeed. Now, favourite story. Adam, I would like you to go first on this one.
Okay.
Because I'm intrigued to see what you've got.
Well, I'll recover myself, and obviously no melodrama needed for this one. We'll just see how we go.
Go on.
So my favourite story of the week, Media Business Masterclass by ARN. So my favourite story nomination of the week comes with extreme personal bias. It is about media. It does include radio. And it does involve people that I've worked with and competed with in the past. So this week, radio turned 100 years old in Australia, and it has been a momentous week in the industry for lots of reasons. In June this year, ARN bought 14.8% of radio competitor SCA. As part of the colour of this story, That transaction came under scrutiny from the Takeovers panel this week, and penalties are to be decided. In October, ARN launched a bid to acquire SCA fully alongside private equity firm Anchorage Capital and turn ARN into a focused metropolitan network of 10 stations across Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide and Perth, each city featuring a KISS and Triple M brand, plus a larger regional network of stations and co-ownership with Anchorage of a joint venture of digital assets, which could potentially include SCA's digital audio platform Listener. Anchorage Capital Partners would have the remaining assets, including the Hit and Pure Gold networks, a smaller number of regional stations, plus the part of the digital joint venture. Now, that bid has been in negotiation ever since it was launched in October. It's a bold bid by ARN to win and grow in the commercial media landscape by taking their preferred assets of two companies. On the other side of the transaction, SCA is negotiating with ARN while likely trying to create alternative superior scenarios that may appeal to their shareholders. 2 weeks ago, Seven West Media threw their support for ARN and their bid by purchasing 19.8% of the company over a weekend. And this week, ARN announced the biggest media deal in Australia's history to secure the winning Sydney breakfast duo of Kyle Sandilands and Jackie Henderson to a 10-year, $200 million deal, which includes them broadcasting into Melbourne as well. They also secured key Melbourne breakfast talent, ex-UK star Christian O'Connell, for another 5 years. So ARN has now locked in key talent in the two biggest markets in commercial radio, and in my view, their bid for SCA just got stronger. There is plenty left to go in this story. It may not be checkmate, but these are bold, masterful business moves made to grow and win, and my nomination for favourite story of the week. Michael.
Whew. That was a heck of a story. Again, don't want to be a pedant, but out of a 14-minute story, only the last 30 seconds happened this week.
All building up to the finale, Michael.
It's context.
It's right on now.
You're all build up, no finale there, Adam. I'm going to go brief for my favourite story. I'm really kind of prioritising brevity. I'm going to assume, Jen, that one of your categories that you didn't mention is actually brevity as well as economic importance.
It's not always your strongest category, Michael.
Adam, you've been a judge of this show a fair bit. Is the judge allowed to sledge competitors? Is that
Look, I think I'm learning new tricks. I'd say not only allowed, but encouraged.
Oh.
I'll have my glasses right down on the end of my nose and do that very, teacherly.
Keep us honest, Judge Duke.
There's a little red flag for bias going up here. Just so you know, if I do lose, I will be lodging a protest. But because at the moment I have not yet lost and it's 1.5 all, I'm going to say you are still a fine, upstanding citizen and a very good judge. I am going brief for my favourite story. I know the preamble just then wasn't brief, but the story itself will be brief. It is about the way technology is having a material impact on our lives, making it better, fixing all of life's major problems, like being drunk. So this is all about a NASDAQ-listed company called Safety Shot, which is bringing to market a drink that apparently reverses the effect of drinking alcohol. It's a patented product. It works by speeding up the way that the body metabolizes alcohol and protects, apparently, the stomach lining, the actual lining of the stomach. It stops it absorbing more alcohol. And it uses vitamins and minerals and nootropics to reverse intoxication, which sounds very fancy and very scientific. Just think for a second who this could benefit, right? Very serious here. The pilot who forgot they have an evening flight and had a few drinks, maybe by the pool through the afternoon. They could knock back a couple of safety shots and they're good to get behind the wheel of a 737. A surgeon, maybe, enjoying a bottle of red wine with dinner, gets a call for an emergency operation. Safety shot will sober him up. The politician having a drink or two with lunch, who then needs to get up in question time and not sound like he's had a drink or two with lunch. Safety shot to the rescue again. The potential of an invention like this is quite literally unlimited. There is also a serious side to it, that it has the potential to assist in reducing alcohol poisoning. There was a version of it being developed, like a very strong version of it being developed for medical purposes. The company will need to get FDA approval in the US and from the TGA as well here. Now, for anyone questioning the economic importance of this, and I'm looking at the two of you right now who are both questioning the economic importance of this, the global hangover cure industry, right, is an industry I reckon you probably didn't even realize existed, but it's expected to exceed $6 billion US by 2030. That is big. And that's just part of the global kind of beverage industry. And the company says this particular drink could lead to the biggest disruption in the drink market ever. That is a massive, massive market. It's not often we see genuine innovation in this space. Usually it's just kind of mixing flavors and things together. This is genuine scientific innovation with the potential to have major, major consequences right across the world. It is my favorite story of the week. Jen.
Oh, okay. This is also another toughie because I could listen to Adam like geek out on radio business deals forever. It's like a whole new subgenre of Fair and Greed that I'm 100% here for. But the safety shot was actually also my favorite story of the week. So I'm going to give this one to you, Michael, because it is just incredible. And I love the idea that they are bringing some science to this really, really deep problem. And we've seen in Australia, particularly over Christmas season, how many people die on the roads from being drunk and getting behind a wheel or being the victim of someone else. And I just think if it gets to that point where it can actually reduce those side effects from drinking and it does actually reduce road fatalities, wouldn't that just be completely incredible? I don't actually know enough about it to know how realistic my pipe dream is for this product, but I think that the idea of what you can do and the kind of innovative thinking that we're seeing coming out of companies is just so incredible that, yes, that's definitely favorite story for the week.
Well, that was unexpected.
I know, I can't believe I gave a drink over Carl and Jackie, but,
Yeah.
Don't come for us.
Okay, so there we go. 2.5 to 1.5.
Oh, Michael, you've done it.
Oh, I'm as surprised as anyone here by this. May I ask, do you have a points breakdown? Because I just like to know what the margin was. Do you like?
There was only one point in it for the last one, and then the other two you were pretty much head and head. It was 23 to 25 for the first category.
Oh,
25,
yeah,
25.
nice.
So I gave you both full marks for the CEO oustings.
Ooh.
And then it was 25 on population and 23 on work from home. So,
Oh, that's pretty close.
there's only 1 point in it. The last one, yeah, it was really close.
You know what? It feels like it's been a very honourable session.
That's because you
And
won.
I would like to hereby retract all of my protests. I would like to retract all of my protests. And anything I said about either of your characters, I didn't mean it, and I'm sorry.
I meant all of my sledging.
That's it. Stick by it, Jen. Thank you very much, Jen, for jumping in today and doing a fantastic job as our judge.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Michael.
Make sure you're following the podcast and please join us online on LinkedIn, Instagram, X, and Facebook. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was Fear and Greed Business News. Have a great weekend.